Welcome back to React Native Radio Podcast. Brought to you by cheap coffee and bad editing skills. Episode 197, the latest on native base with Sanket. Welcome, friends. It's Gant and Robin here, starting off with the React Native Radio Podcast. And I just wanted you all to know that I am not Jamon Holmgren. So, yes, Jamon is kicking up his feet in Hawaii, and I have graciously, oh, Gant, you're so nice, jumped in and decided to help host this podcast. If you don't know who I am a developer of 20 years. I have been at Infinite Red since the beginning, and I'm really excited to keep being involved with React Native as much as possible, especially in jumping in with such awesome people today. Co-host today is Robin Hines.
Hello.
Robin, say hi.
Hey, Gant, you know you're going to have to talk about tractors if you really want to be the replacement host.
Every episode. You're right. Actually, I got a package from Jamon a minute ago, and I opened it up. It was a mini tractor to put on my desk for this podcast.
Get in character.
Yeah. Just to really get in character, I've let my lawn go. That is not a mistake. That was by choice. My lawn being knee-high is totally for Jamon. But speaking of wild and amazing lands, our guest for today, who's coming to us from very far away, Mr. Sanket. Sanket, tell everybody hi and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, everyone. Good to be back to React Native podcast. I think this is my second time. So I'm Sanket. I run this software agency called Geeky Ants. We are also active in open source, and we do a lot of React Native. Pretty excited to be a part of this again.
Yeah, Sanket, we were going to dig deep into Sanket's history because I've known Sanket for a long time.
Yeah.
And he's sent me some really cool stuff over the years, and we've stayed in touch, and he's been at Chain React and all kinds of cool stuff.
And Amsterdam.
Yes, indeed. We don't speak of that.
What happens in Amsterdam stays in Amsterdam.
Or gets announced. Well, maybe we will in a React Native Radio. Who knows? You have to listen to find out, right? Well, I just want to say that this episode is sponsored by this fantastic company called Infinite Red. Is this correct, Robin? Infinite Red?
Maybe you heard of it. I don't know. It's a little company, really unknown.
Infinite Red is one of the premier React Native design development agencies located fully in the US. There are only a few amazing companies. Sanket's at one of them. We're at another. And there's a third one, which I'm not going to say. You just have to guess which one that one is. But with years of experience, we've all been here with React Native since the beginning. Don't forget, with React Native here at Infinite Red, we also do the React Native newsletter, which has over 12,000 subscribers. Definitely call us for your React Native app and check all that cool stuff out. You can message, I'm not going to give you my email. Go ahead and message Jamon. Jamon at infinite.red. Go bug him, especially while he's on vacation, while this is actually coming out. Send him messages galore.
What's the newsletter number right now? Like, you have been doing weekly since forever now. So
Yeah. So when we grabbed the newsletter, it was a community effort, and it was around, I want to say, 3,000 to 4,000 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
That was, 2 or 3 years ago. Infinite Red's been taking care of the newsletter with actually feedback from awesome people who constantly submit to the newsletter. But now it's over 12,000 subscribers for the newsletter. And on April 6th, when you are opening up the newsletter, you'll see we actually have a brand new editor-in-chief.
Mm-hmm.
So we have like an amazing new push coming out for the newsletter. Lots of cool things will be coming there, giveaways, all kinds of cool stuff. So if you have not been checking it out, I say that we'll probably be over 13,000 soon.
You could be one of those.
Yeah.
And what's the, how many weeks have you been doing this for now? Or is it like a monthly?
It is every first and third Tuesday of the month. and for a long, long time now. So if you go look at the backlog of all the issues, it's sort of like a history of the growth of React Native.
That's right.
If you ever go back there and you open one up, it's like, by the way, React Native is introducing this cool thing called hooks. And you go back like a little bit further. It's really kind of fun. Flat list. Wow. This will totally kill list view.
It's like a little history books of React Native.
So, okay, so let's get into the topic for today. And Sanket, you are the topic for today. The legend, the work style. Do you remember when we first actually even interacted online or anything? I can't even remember our first interaction. I do remember Amsterdam, contrary to popular belief. But we were talking for a while before that, and that was 2017.
Yep.
Can you give us, like, I guess this is a great chance. What's the history of Geeky Ants getting involved with React Native, and then also sort of like you being everywhere and being a superstar?
I think that's a little too much, Gant. But yeah, we've got a little history, I think. I was following React Native in around like 2014, 15, somewhere around that, when it was only for iOS. And I was like waiting for the Android release, because here in India back then, I think Android was like 98% of the market share. That was, and that was the thing. The day it was announced for Android, we jumped right in because we love JavaScript, and prior to React Native, all the JavaScript solutions to build mobile apps, it was great, but it used a web view and we used to hit performance issues, right? And I also remember there was a website, like people do websites for everything these days, is stillstuck.com. And so
yes.
So we had a similar website, like, is React Native available for Android? Something like that. And I
just said no or yes.
Yes, it just said no. Right.
That reminds me of a really famous website in the Portland area called Is It Snowing in PDX? Because it doesn't snow here very often. And so when it finally does snow, it has the gif of like Kermit the Frog going like flailing, and it just says yes, but most of the time it says no. Very similar.
I love websites like that. I think we need to do some more. I don't know if you have one going presently, but we need to bring those back. There was, for a year here at Infinite Red, we had this website. Do not go to this domain anymore. It's no longer managed. I think it actually loads a virus. Do not go to this domain anymore. But for a while, we had this whole cult inside of Infinite Red around tinytuba.com. And the website was just a little tuba. And when you clicked on it, it made a little tuba sound. That was the whole website. It was background sound for everything. But I love these. I love that y'all had one. Please continue.
That's got our eyes. And we, before React Native happened, we were a web shop. We were doing PHP, jQuery, and stuff like that. In fact, even Angular, because we were progressive back in 2013. So we, as soon as it was introduced for Android, I jumped right in, started building some. I think the first app was like Hello World. Obviously, after that, I did a to-do app. And
because that's what you do.
Yeah. And I was like, am I building a native app without compilation? And I don't have to go through all those like steps and then wait for like 5 minutes to see something on the screen. It was magical. Back then, Geeky Ants was really small. I think we were around 15 people. And I was like, we should do this. And I got Shankodeep from my team to experiment on that. And we realized that, okay, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it looks like a good idea. And then I think that's when I started connecting with everyone who was even trying out React Native. And then I met you. I think the first interaction was, I think it was for an online catch up or something, that all the React Native folks we met.
Yeah, they used to have React Native meetup, online meetups, right?
Right.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was a real fun thing back in the day, and each person would sort of present, and then it'd be open to Q&A.
Right.
Wow. You know what? That's an opportunity for people out there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We have podcasts and cool stuff like that, but little show and tell sessions, I remember those because it was so novel, right?
Yep.
And I was like, are you serious? Is that running the same code on iOS and Android? Show it to me.
Yeah. It was very exciting, I think, and everybody was like, they used to come up with their own experiment, and we would like share knowledge and then take something from the other person and then build on top of that. It was pretty interesting. I think it was from someone in Brazil who was the organizer, and we were invited to the same thing. And then the next thing that we collaborated on was the starter kit that we had built, and then Infinite Red was doing Ignite and the starter kit. We started building things on top of it. We thought, okay, probably we need Bootstrap, but Bootstrap wouldn't work here. And then Native Base happened. And and I remember Ignite also had a plugin for Native Base that you can choose.
Yes, indeed. We showed that in Amsterdam. I remember that. All that you could ignite a project and then say ignite add native base, or I think that was the command, and then you would get all the cool native base stuff immediately in the project. That was 2017.
2017.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I think that's where it all started, and we kept bringing in things from like React and the things that was happening on the website. We pulled it into React Native with different ideas. Yeah. And it was surprising that whatever we were doing in Infinite Red was like we always had a major overlap on React Native front.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Well, it was the need for the industry for sure. And I was glad that we collaborated on some stuff because, when you take a look, let's be honest, half of this podcast is talking about the old days in technology, which was, of course, last week. And React Native, when it was immature, was a very cool project that everybody wanted to kind of play with, but didn't really understand. And I think that they've grown up significantly since then by far. It's one of the best things about it is that if it is consistent and it is reliable, you can sort of like rely on it, and you can say, like, you can suggest it professionally and not get fired, right? So it's reached that status. But when it was in the beginning of it, it sort of needed to be checked out, and that's what your company was doing. That's what we were doing for sure as well, and just identifying what in the world can you do with this, and what does that look like? And that's what I believe led y'all to do Native Base, and I know you have several different versions of that and everything, but do you want to give, for those who are listening and hearing about Native Base for the first time, a little 30-second elevator pitch? What is Native Base? What's the advantages, etc.?
Native Base started as a button component in the React Native ecosystem.
Why didn't they have a button for the longest time?
Right. Yeah. And that attracted a lot of people coming from the web background, because React Native was an obvious adoption for people coming from the JavaScript background to build mobile apps, right? And the first thing that you do is do on-click, on-press sort of thing, and they didn't have button, and that's what got eyes of the people to use a button. And then we scaled it into a component library initially, and Native Base 1 was crappy. It was not great. It was just a lot of components dumped right in, which people might find useful in their apps, and then it didn't have like consistent design. It didn't have any design philosophy altogether. And that's when we thought, okay, let's fix these things, and we built the next version, which was more of like followed a design principle. On Android, it was for Material UI, and on iOS, it was Cupertino design, and that's how we are progressing to the third version. I will talk a little bit about that later.
So you took influence from PHP, where there was just no consistency. That's right, PHP. I'm talking to you, PHP listeners. changing the channel as we listen.
Yeah, because they definitely downloaded in the first place.
I saw a tweet just last night. It said WordPress has two bad things. One is PHP, second is jQuery.
Oh, no. Yeah, and we all wrote it. Let's be honest. We all have our histories in PHP and jQuery.
I still do PHP, but
Do we, Gant? Some of us are still pristine and
Well, Robin, I mean, if you don't feel comfortable telling everybody about your PHP and jQuery history, it's not me to out you, so it's okay.
I managed to avoid that little piece of the technology world. It's probably a good thing.
It is, for sure. But I think that one of the things that makes so many of these libraries fantastic is not to be mean to jQuery, but jQuery took this unevolving language of JavaScript and made it have to come back to evolving because everybody just needed all these functions, all these needs. It's sort of like Lodash is doing and like pushing, future versions of ECMAScript.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like that's the same kind of people taking up charge like that is probably the same thing that made, Infinite Red think about Ignite and made Geeky Ants think about native base. Is that, hey, why am I solving the same problems over and over again? Can I do this in a way that sort of helps a community? And I really kind of applaud when that happens. So I joke about jQuery, but it's got a special place in my heart.
Well, it was an important part of JavaScript history.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I see people talking on Twitter. I think Twitter is mainly for showing your hate, right? But yeah, whenever I find a tweet like on dislike, I would use the word dislike, not hate. I reply to people talking about these languages and the history of where the web is, right? The dark history. That hate might be a little strong, and there was a place for it when the web was evolving. And few things still have place. Like if you say PHP, the Laravel community of PHP is doing really great even today. And we build stuff on top of that. If you see BuilderX or the couple of products that we are building right now, it's built on top of Laravel. So we use that today as well. So there is a learning, as you mentioned, like we brought in the things of PHP to React Native.
Yes, indeed. Well, so native base. We've got the origin story, and then you went to version 2. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the why of what you did there, and perhaps let's start getting a little technical for our audience here. You of course brought in the buttons, which classic. I have to ask a quick question. When React Native added the button component, did you concede and come back and use it? Or are you still using like touchable opacity or something? Just, I'm not going to use that. We built our own.
So we evolved the version and later it started using the underlying button. We tried an experiment, but the initial version of React Native button was not very customizable. So that we will probably stick to touchable opacity and style it ourselves. But by the time React Native had a button component, native base was already famous.
Yeah, so I'd love to know a little bit more about the evolution from V1 to V2 and sort of what the impetus was for the change and how you got there.
V1 was most of like a brute force way of putting the components in there as a package, which people would find useful and use it in their projects. It didn't have any sort of theming. It didn't have a design thinking or a design philosophy or a design system per se. For V2, we wanted to go a step forward and make it more on the lines of the platform guidelines of Google, that is material design. And then on iOS, we have this Cupertino design. We got the inspiration from Ionic version 2. Ionic version 2, if you use that, use the components. The same markup has different designs for Android and iOS. So they have conditional or responsive design based on the platform where you're using the components, and it would automatically pick up Cupertino or Material. And we followed the same because Ionic was really famous back then. It was something to look up to. And so we got Crystal pixel perfect design on Android, following the 64 pixel height of the nav bar, and I think it's 56 pixels or pt on the iOS. We didn't have notch back then. It was
Oh, the notch. I remember when the notch was introduced, and all of us collectively were like grown, like, oh man, our job just got harder.
Yeah, one of us had like a notch phone, or like, okay, you're our tester for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so platform design was one. And then second, we wanted the flexibility of CSS context-based styling, which is an anti-pattern today in React and React Native. We were coming from a background of conditional or say context-based styling. Say if you have a text in a toolbar, then it should automatically take a white color on Android because the header is blue or indigo 600 or something by default, right? And so we used a library from Shoutem that gave us the flexibility of context-based styling. And it works pretty well. It does a lot of computation on the fly. It has a runtime overhead, but it made our job easy to like build a lot of components and get all those guidelines and principles in the code in a single theme file. And we built a lot of great components and started extending it.
When we talk about platforms in React Native, that is a brand new world right now. 2021, platforms, React Native, you have to sort of say which platforms.
Right.
And if I remember correctly, native base is good for iOS and Android, sort of like adhering to each one. Is that correct?
V2, yes.
Any ambition for, I don't know, desktop apps, React Native Web, React Native Windows, Mac?
I think that's the obvious next step, I would say. And that's why V3.
Oh.
Yeah,
very nice.
Teasing it out
Very
slowly.
nice.
We'll
Lead
get there.
in,
Yes.
Gant.
I think, Gant, you have set the stage for me.
It was completely on purpose, Sanket, that's for sure.
Right. And there is also another philosophy in the third version. That's one thing is more platforms. But when you have more platforms and more guidelines to follow, your bundle size goes like to the roof. And you can't like support all the platforms and all the design philosophies from one single design system. And then we started looking at Tailwind CSS for the third version. So, yeah. So I really like the philosophy of Tailwind and the article by Adam, which says best practices don't work. And there he goes from like a single line of CSS and then talks about all the problems of how you can build a particular design system for a particular use case or a brand. And then it goes into like multiple different areas, and you have to support a lot of things. So the best way to do that is not to write those and build a strong or a very inflexible design system and give that opportunity and flexibility to the users in the markup itself.
Yeah,
we wanted to do something like that, and there is a library that helps in building utility first components with utility props. It's a famous library called as a styled system. And if it's composable, so you can pass in a component and then it gives you a composed component that has all the props of, say, P is 1 and MT, say, 2 for margin of 2x from the top.
Nice. Since there is no one design system to rule them all, so I'm okay with my inline styles that I write, correct? That's, if I'm hearing this correctly, I'm all right. So, hearing nobody say I'm wrong, I'll take it. But no, I think that's you've hit a really big point that we've found for delivering a bunch of apps as well. Trying to find, the one ring to rule them all, you only serves a certain set of the audience, and it's easy enough to find a total audience where that completely goes against it. You have to be able to customize. You have to be able to know the rules and then be able to break the rules. What's the distribution over at Geeky Ants? How many dev, how many design? That's an interesting question as well.
Yeah, so we have about 240, 230 developers, and I think 20 designers.
Nice. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and rest of them are more on the say managerial role and leadership role, and then we also have QA. So total headcount is around like 300 right now.
And are most of those devoted towards your consultancy kind of work, or how many are actually devoted to native base?
Yeah, so the R&D and OSS team is like about 20 people right now. And we do a mix of native base, and there is a form library, there is a state management library that we just released a few weeks ago. So it's a mix of all those. And we also have BuilderX and another product that's coming in.
Nice. Wait, did you say a state management library?
Yes, yeah.
Is that like a rite of passage? Does everybody have to make one?
It's like if you know CSS, you have to do your own CSS in JS, right?
Yeah.
Right. I've invented this thing. It is a wheel. I feel like we all do this. It's okay. This is part of being a developer. But actually, I'm deep into, I don't know if you know this, Sanket, but I love looking at differences between state management systems. I did the React State Museum a while ago, and I think maybe we might have to have you back for like a React State episode or something like that. Just sort of talk about all the different options that are out there.
I would love that. In fact, that's my favorite topic too after UI. And
Isn't it everyone's favorite topic? I could talk about state management forever.
You go to other platforms and they're like, we use the system. And we're like, oh.
That's so boring.
Oh. Yes, you don't.
Wouldn't you rather have 25 to choose from?
A giant warring set of states all fighting for power. Like, there can only be one at the end, and it's global state. That's the one I use. But anyways, so that's fantastic. So to catch people up, we have native base. We have native base version 2. Native base version 2 has more platform supporting for iOS, Android. You also have premium templates for native base as well. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. So we have native base marketplace, and it's for like buyers and sellers both. So people who are great at building say templates and design system, they can go ahead and put their libraries and templates out there, and then people who want it, they can buy it. So yeah, it's working awesome. Pretty well overall. I think we have more than 15 full apps that also include something like a location based taxi app, and then we have something like Tinder dating app and e-commerce app. And it's pretty complete. It comes with a backend, and it's well maintained by the authors right now. And it's
so the next time we have a client that comes to us wanting to build Tinder for dogs, we'll send them your way.
That's actually a fantastic idea. We're like, go buy this template from Sanket, and then you can come back to us, and we will switch out everything for dog photos.
Uber for kangaroos,
Uber. Hop about town with Uber for kangaroos. Awesome. All right. Well, Sanket, I know we want to go ahead and do time checks, make sure everything's doing well here. So let's talk about upcoming announcements. Well, I know we've kind of set the stage for it. Do you have anything else to tell us about this version 3 that we've alluded to a few more times?
Yeah. So version 3, I think we have already scratched the surface of what's coming up. We have the alpha version out there, and it was an announcement just last week at a conference, but I didn't go in detail about the features and whys of the version 3. So the third version, as I mentioned, it has styled components. It uses style system for utility first props. And now we have a more complete support for web. So you can go ahead and use native base on web. And we are missing a very important piece that is accessibility. All the components are accessible, and they're powered
Ooh,
by
nice.
they're powered by React Aria, that was built by Devon at Adobe, and we extended React Aria, and we have React Native Aria, which you can use. So it's a set of hooks that you can use to build your own design system or something like Native Base version 3. And all your components are by default accessible. Like we have added tab indexes, arrow key, and screen reader, and all those sort of things. So those who can't really see the screen, they know that it's a checkbox or it's a drop down or it's a menu item.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. I really appreciate people who are taking the time. There's some really good plugins for checking accessibility. It's super important, and it's every new developer who comes to a platform, it's the last thing on their mind. So it's really good that when you have the stage and you have that moment, that you take the extra energy to make sure that you're applying yourself to accessibility. I'm a huge believer in it. So good. I love hearing that. That's fantastic.
Thanks. So it's all great work, and by Devon and team. If you don't know Devon is the guy behind Parcel.js and React Spectrum as well. That's a bundle that comes with React Aria and UI library that Adobe uses internally as well for their apps. And React Aria, we were really excited, and it does most of the things for the web support of native base as well. And we are continuously working with them. So I'm really happy to be collaborating with them on that piece and using that to build a design system that works for everyone and everywhere.
Awesome.
Perfect. All right, we're looking forward to that. What we'll do is, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and place the chance of trying to get you back here, Sanket, and we'll do another. And then that means they have to bring me back, even when Jamon's back off of vacation. We'll have a whole state discussion. So we'll have another cool hangout.
Yep.
It won't be like Amsterdam, but what will? Speaking of wild, crazy times, I believe this is the part of the show where we talk about strange bugs or weird bugs.
Weird bugs.
We need a little cool song. Weird bugs.
I know. I've been trying to get Todd to add a little stinger for weird bugs, but I haven't found a good one yet.
No problem. We will have that. We're going to have to get that before next recording. So, Sanket, I want to ask you, with all these innovations, anything like that, do you have a weird bug experience that perhaps maybe in the many, many upgrades where you were like, I can't believe that was the bug. That was weird.
I can't think of one right now, but let me.
If you have one, that should be good.
Yeah, let me help you out with this. So what I'll tell you one for me, and I'll just kind of start off like that. I am not going to call out this platform. It is nobody here, but I had this one weird bug that I was using the CLI, and I typed in the command, and it was basically, it was who are you and why do you think you have access to this? And I read for, I want to say, hours just typing the CLI command. And it was nah, we're failing all over the place. Nobody had anything about it. And then I was like, what happened here? What was the problem? Well, when I first typed the command, it opened up a web page, and then I went to lunch or something. And then that web page timed out, and then forever after, that CLI command did not work. I had to go log into the web page, sign out, sign back in, and then the CLI worked. I was like,
what?
That's 3 hours of my life I'll never get back. Yeah, we're making all these things talk to each other. We're just not that great at corner cases for it yet. So
right.
I won't say what platform it is. But I will tell you that I went and found people who work for that company, and I bent their ear for a good while. I was like, you owe me 3 hours of my life. Let me tell you what your bug is. So that's my weird bug. When you're trying to connect a bunch of different services, and then you type a command and it's jumping off and opening browser views for a second and doing all this other stuff, everything's talking to each other. Please test timeout issues for that, because I CLI, you type it and then you can take a break, you come back and you just start continuing where you left off. When these services have this weird interdependence, I have no idea what void my stuff landed in.
I think I know which service you're talking about. I think
I had no hate on this. I had to go grab them and I had to tell them what's up for a while afterwards. So
right.
Yeah, that was a weird bug. Be careful when you've got all of these robots talking to each other.
So for me, I think in the recent past, something's it was on my system. It was not a network request or something like that, but and it happened quite a few times. We have been using Dockers a lot internally lately. And when you run Dockers, you switch off one and switch on the other one, and the same port and the same IP address on the local host points to a totally different thing. And for me, it happened like I was editing some other project and trying to refresh the API request, and it was not changing at all. And I wasted like a couple of hours there, and then I realized, okay, I was on some other Docker on the local system. So yeah, something similar, but I didn't go global. It was local on my system.
Yeah. That's like when you open up a file and you just hit the keyboard and hit save to make sure you're touching the right files. You're like, please be the file that I've been working on for an hour.
Yep.
Well, perfect. Robin, you want to throw in a weird bug or we save it for next time?
Oh, I'll save it for next time. Enough weirdness for one day.
Perfect. All right. So let's go ahead and make sure everybody connects up on the socials. So that way they can hear about any future episodes, any future announcements, anything like that. Of course, I am Gant Laborde on Twitter at Gant Laborde. Robin, you want to go ahead and say yours real quick?
I'm at Robin_Hines with an E at the end on Twitter.
Perfect. We also have the React Native Radio podcast, which is at React Native RDIO. That is not because we can't spell. That is because we're developers. Just kidding. It's because we can't spell, we're developers, and we ran out of letters.
It's Twitter's fault.
Thanks so much to our guest. Yeah, Sanket, go ahead and hit everybody with your socials, everything that we can do to kind of keep up with what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. If you want to get connected, I'm very active on Twitter. I go by the Twitter handle Sanket Sahu, SANKET SAHU. And let's connect after this.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in on this. We're going to be really excited. We'll definitely share everything when we get everything for Native Base 3.0. As always, thanks to the producer, editor. Thanks. If we sounded really smart and funny today, that's because of the editor, Todd Worth. Transcript is released, coordinated by Jed Bartowski, and our social media coordinator, Missy Warren. Thanks to the sponsor for today, Infinite Red. Definitely check it out, infinite.red/React Native. And of course, super special thanks to all of you who are listening to React Native Radio. Please take an opportunity to share this with other people. And if you're interested in working with Infinite Red, as you might have heard Jamon say in the past, we are currently hiring at careers.infinite.red. What? So, Sanket, I expect to see your application as you want to hire. We expect you to bring 300 people with you. So it'd be fantastic. This has been tons of fun. So until we all get together again, see you all next time.
Bye.
Thank you so much.